First of all, before we get into anything else, for a long time, I have been in touch with teachers from various schools. I have been in touch with the Department of Education in Mombasa. I have been in touch with the union and KEPSHA, all in the name of education. Now, previously I was told that Abdullswamad is doing this a bit too early. Then I was told that he's doing this way too soon to elections. And I think by next year, when we will be doing this, it is because we'll be doing it as our job. There is, without a doubt, a need for such kind of meetings to be able to be done, and to be done collectively. Now, vital services to strive in any country, they have to be done collectively. And personally, I don't see any single vital sector that shall supersede education. And it is for those reasons that it is important we put boundaries aside and we use those boundaries that have been set there for no other reason but for management purposes. But when it comes to trying to seek a solution, then this has to be a whole collective Mombasa County issue. Now, like I said earlier, it is important to collectively have such a sit-in with head teachers. The lessons that students have learned from their teachers, the lessons that stick with them throughout their life. And it is indeed unfortunate that our society has neglected the noble teaching profession. It is unfortunate that we have reached a level of putting too much blame on each other. Some of you out here have had to probably take in defense courses instead of learning anything to do with education. But all of this is because of that single fact that our society has totally neglected this particular profession. Now, we need to realize another aspect as well. The fact that the teachers break down into the souls of these students is something that is totally forgotten as society. We try and tend to forget that teachers do get overworked with their workforce and do get overloaded with the stresses of doing the job that you're doing. I'm just trying to imagine in a place like Mombasa, and I'm saddened that some of the schools that are represented here today, in a place like Mombasa, trying to teach students, and you have to be there from morning till evening, where there is no electricity at all. So I can understand that type of burden that is each and every one of you. I can try and comprehend with the little resources that you have. Each and every one of you has a family back home, and each and every one of you has responsibilities for their families. But I urge you all, now is the time to put this even much more. Now is the time to put the effort in excess power. Because really, if the teaching profession fails us, it is fatal enough to say that we have failed society. And ultimately, teachers do need encouragement and support from each and every one of us, for no other reason but to feel that their devotion to their students is appreciated. And I assure you that your devotion to your students, each and every one of you, is your devotion to the future of Mombasa. Now, an aspect that was mentioned here earlier, we have one thing, and I think through the little ways that I have been able to interact with different people, the biggest challenge that we have is our sense of cooperation between teachers and parents. It is right that a child is dropped in at school when they're in standard 1, and the parent starts looking after the interests of that child on the 3rd term of standard 8. Now, education is not an event, it is a process. We cannot say that we are going to be looking at this and expect that overnight we will be jumping hurdles. And that is the reason why I came up with the idea of issuing the school diaries. Depending on the success of this particular project, we will be issuing these diaries to probably all the schools, and the private schools that will wish us to do that as well, we will indulge and do that. But these diaries will be useless if we do not take into consideration on how we are going to be able to use them to the best of satisfaction. Now, not everyone was probably born out of a family that is understanding on the needs of education. Personally, for those of you who know my mother, they probably know her, not the iron fist lady that she is. But I was born of a mother who each and every report form, from when I was in standard 1 till I finished school, they're still in the file at home. And every single school parents' day, my mother would be on the front line to ensure that she finds out what is my interest and what is the way forward. And she was able to do this for all of us as children. My late father, when I was in secondary school, he would actually put his entire stuff aside. And the day that I was going back to school, he would personally drive me and my younger brother all the way to school. And to me at that particular time, it seemed like the longest drive, because it was a lecture from when we started living home all the way to the school. And it was a bonding session, because at that particular time it was simply me and him. There was no one else. But not every child would probably be blessed the way some of us have. There are some children out there who at a very young age are orphans. There are some children out there who come from very broken families and various circumstances. But I urge each and every one of you as teachers not to give up on that connection. Continuously try and connect with that parent. I know it's not easy. If a parent themselves has given up on their own child, you are merely a teacher. But then again we should go back to that old accord, that is the reason why your profession is a noble profession. My hope is the school free diary program shall be successful, and I will be in touch with the different schools in the anticipation that this particular project will be needed again. And like I said, to the schools that we have not been able to issue these diaries, we will issue them. The first trial project we did was for 15,000 school diaries, and that's 15,000 students. And we gave the students from standard 1 up to standard 8, because to build that culture that it is important for a parent and a teacher to be able to communicate. Now, the reason why each and every one of us is here today, other than the lesson study, is how are we as Mombasa going to be at par to where we actually belong. It is not good enough to say that we were able to improve. As much as we will be giving each other a clap of applause, but that is not good enough. The question arises on what needs to be done next. And for that, I am hoping that everyone is going to be scratching their heads, and it is my belief that we will all put our thinking caps on, and we will start thinking and making our minds beyond the box. What is the reason? Why are we not able to perform? I personally do not believe, and I do not think that any one of you believes, that our mothers were cast with wombs that our children are not to perform well. So the problem has to be there. And unless we know where we are, we cannot be able to know where we're going to be going. And I stress again, there is no other forum that is going to be much more better. There is no other forum that is going to be more fluid for us to be able to come up with results than a forum like this. We have some of the best educators that Mombasa has to offer right here. And it is my hope that at the end of the day, I will be knocking on the doors of the organizers to try and see what is the way forward. A lot of issues have been raised, and I will try and touch on some of them. But someone once mentioned to me, and probably this is one of the reasons, and I speak this as a layman, and the reason I say a layman is because I'm a parent like any other person. But you're the professions and you would know where the problem is. Now whether we like it or not, English came on a boat to Kenya. As much as it is a foreign language, it is still the language that our students are used to be examined on. Now, if that child cannot be able to read proper English, how are they going to be able to answer that question? Now, I've seen some of the results. The MEO had given me the breakdown of the results, and some of the results, I mean, if a school can get an aggregate of marks in the region of 30s in English, how are those children expected to perform in mathematics? How are those children expected to perform in social studies? If we cannot be able to know what we are being questioned, how can we know what to answer? Now, these are just some of the little issues that we need to come up with and be able to come up with a proper solution. Now usually, this is something that I've realized whenever I'm talking about anything, the first thing that I do is I try and put a perfect image of what inspires me and motivates me in front of me. And if what inspires and motivates me personally is down and under at that particular time, that gives me the extra push that I have to be able to do more to lift the spirits of my particular source. It is my hope that each and every one of you looks at their students as their source of inspiration and motivation. And when you look at your students and you find that they are down and under, do not give up on them. Let that be a reason for each and every one of you to push even further. Let that be a reason as to why each and every one of us has a purpose in this world. Now, we're entering into a whole new dimension of how Mombasa will be governed. We're entering into a whole new perspective as to how our schools will be managed. Those that are public schools will now become county schools. We're expecting that the kind of revenue that this particular county will be able to be getting shall be enough not only to sustain and to satisfy your immediate needs, but shall supersede our expectations. And next year or the year after, when each and every one of us is seated here again under different circumstances, under different positions, we shall be asking ourselves that we asked for this and we got more than that. What reason do we have not to perform? So come next year, and I know we've been having a problem. Now usually I don't like talking anything about politics in anything related to the education sector. But sometimes things reach a point where you have to talk about it. We have a situation whereby we blame each other so much. And this blame at times does not even come from the parents or the teachers. At times this blame comes from fellow leaders. People who profess that I am a leader and the best thing I can do is start pointing fingers at the council on each and every little evil thing that goes on. This is a council, and probably this is the only council that literally runs without gaining any cess. Now we've got councils from all over Kenya. In sugar producing areas, those particular councils pay a certain amount to that particular council. In other particular areas where there is enough wildlife, there is a certain amount that is paid to the particular council in that area. Why? So that schools can be able to benefit, and so that we don't have to sit here and start arguing and complaining that we do not have power. But when you don't come up with a solution, and each and every day when you wake up, the first thing that you see is his worship the mayor, and you start pointing a finger at him. The first thing you see is Mulambe, and you start pointing a finger at him. The first thing that you see is the head teachers, and say all the head teachers are rotten and we need to get rid of them. We need to start putting all this aside, and we need to start coming up with solutions. And really, let us not satisfy our quench for education by drinking from the cup of blame. That is not going to help each and every one of us. I usually say that I don't like mixing anything political with the education sector. And that is the reason why whenever we have anything to do with education, it is preferable that we do it as a whole, as Mombasa County. Let us put our differences aside. Really, we will be having no space for such kind of forums, not further than 10 years from today, if we do not do something about the state of education in Mombasa. And I urge you to not give up. Giving up is not giving up on just yourself. But when you as teachers give up, you have given up on the whole of Mombasa. My personal promise to each and every one of you, as much as we anticipate that next year we will be seated here and talking here under different circumstances, whatever those circumstances are, unless someone decides that we should not be talking to teachers, but we will not give up on the issues to do with education.